When I was Jen's age, I had very low self-esteem. I could not understand why God would give somebody a handicap to deal with like this. And I discovered that our society uses an unfair value system to evaluate self-worth. Our self-worth is formed and measured by looking in the eyes of others. And as I've done that, I've not always liked the reflection that I've seen of myself. On the table, I have a couple of books that we've written. And the first chapter in the book talks about my delivery. And the night that I was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck so tightly that I went without oxygen for 25 minutes. The doctor told my mother the next day I should have never lived. He doesn't understand how I survived. As a result of the lack of oxygen, that caused the handicap. My mother sat there and prayed the whole time on the delivery table. Please, God, let my baby live. She didn't know what was happening, she didn't know what was going on, but she knew something was wrong with the delivery. Growing up with a handicap has been very difficult. I didn't know that I had a younger brother, and Steve, all during high school, would have a date every weekend. And I wouldn't have a date, and it used to tear me up inside that he would have all these dates and I wouldn't have any dates. I had a lot of friends, but nobody that was special. And we couldn't understand how a God that we worship, a God that we praise, could allow someone to be born with a handicap. And after much years of prayer and counsel and guidance, I realized that God had nothing to do with it. Yeah, God allowed it. But God didn't look down and say, okay, you're going to be handicapped, you're not. God didn't do that. But God allowed that to happen. And basically, growing up, I struggled with 4 questions. And I find as I travel around the country, especially guys, are dealing with these same 4 questions today. The first question is, who am I? What's going to be my identity? Last weekend, our pastor was preaching and shared a story about 4 weeks ago. He was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he stopped in the McDonald's to get a meal, and there was a group of individuals that were from a group home that were there just in a ball, having lunch at McDonald's. And one of the young ladies was sitting there reading the paper out loud to herself. So our pastor leaned over and said, "Man, you're a great reader." And she said, "Well, I love to read." Except, I gotta tell you what happened last week when we were here. There was a guy that came in here and got very upset because we were sitting in his seat, his table. And he called me every name that you can imagine. And we weren't about to move. The only name that he didn't use was a child of God. This young lady knew who her identity was, that she was a child of God despite her disability. The second question I struggled with was, do I matter? What's going to be my importance? Who am I going to be? I never dreamed 20, 30 years ago that I would be speaking here on Sunday morning. 20 years ago, I didn't even know this church was even here. So, what was going to be my importance? The third issue that I struggled with was what is my place in life? What is our purpose? Why are we here? What are we doing in life? And all issues growing up, I struggled with it. And then finally, what am I going to become? What impact? What potential as a man could I have? And begin to realize that we all have giants, we all have brokenness. The only difference, as I said, is that you can see mine. We're all handicapped by sins. And that sin is the biggest handicap we have. And I found myself one day, many years ago, on a boat, and was on the sea galley, and was taking a boat ride from the south shore up to the city of Capernaum. And if you look in the scriptures, in the Gospels, Jesus did more miracles in that city than any other city in the face of the earth. And I took that boat ride that morning and reflected on where I was. I thought, this is it. I'm going to stop right here on the seashore of the Sea of Galilee and pray and ask God to heal me of this handicap. And so that morning with a dear friend, I did that. And God answered that prayer. He answers every prayer. Now we know as dads and as fathers, we don't always give to our kids the answer they want to hear. I have a fifth grader, a daughter, and half the answers I give her are not the answers that she wants to hear. But I have, as a father, I need to do what's best for her. And that morning, God answered that prayer. What I tell people is, He healed me from the inside out. Up to that point in my life, I liked Larry Patton, but I did not love Larry Patton. And that day, God filled me with a love that I had never felt before. He said, Larry, I can use you more effectively with the handicap than without. Is that okay? And my whole world just changed that day. And I realized what my purpose was. That God wanted me to use this handicap to glorify Him.